Hello everyone, I am George Villalobos and this is my assignment 5 presentation. I decided to go with educational leadership for principals focusing on special education. My first article is it's titled Making Inclusive Education Work. As a principal or teacher, you must be committed to the diversity of your students. Since the implementation of the Individual with Disability Act in 1975, federal law stated that children with disabilities have a right to an education in the least restrictive environment. During the last 28 years, that interpretation of the law has evolved with schools and educators' abilities to provide effective support. It has evolved into the approach now called inclusion. Inclusion is the principle and practice of considering general education as a placement of first choice for all learners. In this article, since LRE has changed, students with disabilities has increased dramatically since 1999. In 1999, 47% of students with disabilities spent 80% of their day in general education classes compared to 25% in 1985. There's also a problem with our education system where there is a tremendous difference between schools, districts, and states when it comes to inclusion classes. For example, there was a study done across the United States and on students between the ages of 16 and 21, and there was a large difference between Hawaii and Vermont. In Hawaii, 18% of the students spent 80% of their time in general education classes, and while in Vermont, 82% of their students spent 80% of their time in general education classes. Why the big difference? The biggest difference is that there isn't a standard across all the states. It's kind of hard to sit there and be able to evaluate what needs to be done so every state is very well balanced. And in this article, it sat there and explained as to what we need to do to make a school all-inclusive. And it has a lot to do with the principle. It talked about the five system level practices, connection with best practices. These five systems, in the article, it explained how we need to be better principals in leadership positions to be able to adjust our teaching, our classroom, our schools to be able to fit not only the special education students, but all students in general. Okay, as a leader of the school, from what I got on Colleges and Partners Chapter 3, we have to set our examples for our teachers to follow. As principals, we are the leaders of that school. We have to have the right things set in place in order to help all our students get ahead. Again, with the five system level practices, if they do what they're supposed to do, there will be a school that will be above all others. For example, connection with best practices, we have to work and talk with other schools, the schools that are succeeding in this, and get their ideas, get their best practices, so we can implement them in our schools and make better students of all our kids. As a principal, we have to have a visionary leadership. That leadership, the principal needs to be have the idea, have the vision of what they plan to do to move our kids forward. Not only the special ed, like I said, but all students in general. It also talked about redefined roles in the school itself. Most of the time, you have your teacher, you have your special ed teacher. In my book, a teacher is a teacher. Plain and simple. And you can't sit there when you have two people in a classroom in the beginning of the school year, you can't sit there, okay, ladies and gentlemen, here's Mr. Thomas. He is your history teacher. Oh, and by the way, here's Mr. Brown. He's your special ed teacher. You can't do that because you're automatically going to be classifying people, classifying students, and that's not something to have. You have to define those roles appropriately. These are your teachers to assist you to become better students. And within that, both teachers, the special ed teacher and the regular general education teacher, need to do a lot of collaboration to make sure all documentation, in the article it talked about how they do everything, how they teach and stuff like that. It's all to move all students forward, not just one set of students. In the article, it also talked about adult support. With adult support, the principal has to have programs in place to help everybody, the special ed teachers, the regular teachers, the students themselves, and to help the family itself. There has to be plans in place in order to move those students forward. Model the way by implementing the systems approach and explain to your staff, your students, and your parents what the best practices are to bring the students ahead. The principal has to have an inspired shared vision that the education of the students is a shared responsibility between the school and also the family. They have to challenge the process of teaching, because we have teachers that are just stuck in their ways, where they need to know that the SPED teachers are there to support what they do and not there to interfere with the teacher schedule for that day. In my school, I have seen this happen quite a bit. Why do I have a special ed teacher? They're there to help, to assist, to be able to assist those students who do not catch on as fast, to help them move forward. Enable others to act by having the support they need, teachers, students, and family alike, and be there to help them when they need. The principal needs to have, according to the article, needs to have systems in place to be able to move the entire team ahead. Encourage the heart by forging a community that will support not only our inclusive students, but all students of that school. Let them know that we want them to succeed. The second article that I looked at, it's called Inclusive Leadership, Preparing Principals for the Role That Awaits Them. This was more of a critique article that I read. It was a study that was done, and basically what it came down to, I believe this in 2003, it came down to where principals were not prepared for special education programs. Basically, in the master's program, before someone went out and became a principal, there was not enough content and not enough classes on special education. And the special education teachers have grown frustrated with that portion, because they felt that every year, no matter what, they had to sit there and give the administrators a professional development class on special education. And what happened was that they constantly did not know what the laws are, what the rules are with dealing with special education students. And so they came down with a couple of things to be able to move forward. And I will read a couple things within the article itself. The most pressing issues facing education, special education systems include ambiguous and competing responsibilities, overwhelming paperwork, inadequate district and administrative support, significant teacher isolation, insufficient focus on improved student outcomes, increased demand for well-qualified special educators, poorly prepared general and special educators, and fragmented licensing systems. Now, that was lacking on special preparation for school principal challenges their ability to meaningfully serve all students. Administrators report being ill-prepared for the job and cite difficulties with role clarification and job specialization. In the role of instructional leaders, principals need requisite knowledge in assessing the impact of disabilities on student performance, monitoring, referral to placement procedures, providing various service delivery models, and facilitating student support teams. It aims to create inclusive environments for all learners. More easily can be realized through strong inclusive leadership practices from school administrators. Again, this states there isn't a lot there. This is not only coming from the special education teachers, but also from the administrators themselves. So what needs to be done in order to correct this? Okay. When looking at the whole process, looking at the ins and out of it, when we talk about these ideas, these are the things that need to be done in order to have a well-formed school and a well-prepared principal in inclusive schools. In order for principals to be successful, they must put into practice the 5 practices of exemplary leadership, and they will do this by having the ability to establish a communication system, be actively involved in the IEP process, be involved with parents and students with disabilities, develop philosophies regarding inclusion, articulate that vision to all involved, implement professional development around inclusive development, and have problem-solving techniques. These are the key tools that a principal needs in order to be well prepared to assume the role as a principal. And it's something that needs to be focused on at the college, at the collegiate level. And once you get out into the world, it's kind of hard, because the role of as administrator, I didn't realize how hard they had it with meetings and things of that nature that they had to attend, and financial and budget and this and that, and to throw a class on top of that, yeah, it's going to be a bit of a challenge. And I think at the collegiate level, it needs to be looked at and needs to be implemented, especially if a person wants to become a principal. Part 2, successfully apply inclusive leadership. This is what I see. What a principal needs to have to be successful. I've looked at, I've been through 5 principals in my 5 years of teaching at my high school. Yeah, it's a mess. Number one, the principal needs to be knowledgeable of their school, their community, their students, the teachers. They have to have the patience to be able to see a change in what they are trying to do. You can't implement put a plan in place and within months change it to something else, and it's a revolving door. If we continue with the revolving door, we're never going to get better. Confidence. A principal has to have the confidence. They are the leader of the school. They have to set the example. They need to know what they know and be confident enough to say, you know what, I need help with something. I don't understand something, and get that help from the teachers. Okay. The vision. They have to have a vision in order to move the school forward. And in my research that I've done with Dr. Blanchard on the situational leadership, a principal has to be able to be flexible as a leader. Okay, have to be authoritative. They have to be delegative. They have to be laissez-faire. It's a little bit of both. They got to find the right combination dealing with the different types of people that are in your community. And also, I think that a teacher or a principal needs to do, they have to implement Dr. Blanchard's servant first leadership style. Teachers need a lot of acknowledgement. They don't get that acknowledgement. When they're doing a good job, you need to let them know, hey, you're doing a great job. Appreciate what you're doing. Keep doing it, and your kids are getting better. And things of that nature, something to make them feel good. Because in my school, there's a lot of teachers who there's nothing there to make them feel like they are part of a team, and a team needs to be built. Part 3, challenges of inclusive leadership. Number 1, there has to be a buy-in from the teachers. Buy-in is very, very important to make something successful. They need to buy into the vision of the principal. They need to understand that, yes, we are going to move forward. We need the teachers to understand, yes, we're going to make the school better. The students need to understand it, but most importantly, the parents need to understand that, because the parents are the ones that need to enforce those standards once the kids get home. Time. You got to have the time to be able to put a good plan in place, look at all views, research your plan, evaluate your plan, and if something's not working right with it, we need to find out what's going wrong with it and make those changes, make them change accordingly. You can't sit there and implement a plan in September and then change it in March. You have no room for that. It has to be something done quick, it has to be done something easy, and it's got to be effective over all things. Personal views, strengths and weaknesses on my part. From my school, I can go for about 2 hours with this, the strength and the weaknesses. But with the inclusive leadership with the principal, the strength of the principal is going to determine the strength of the school, I think. If that principal has a good support system from its staff, and they are all on the same sheet of music, they are all sharing the same vision moving forward. Number 2 is get the parents to buy in to that vision and support the teachers, support the principal. And 3, the students. The students need to understand that there is a standard that they must meet. We cannot sit there and pass children just because they have an IEP. Okay, pass it on to the next teacher, the next grade level. That is wrong. That needs to be fixed. Let them know you must learn certain things. You must meet a certain standard before you move on to the next grade. We cannot sit there and continue to move our kids forward when they are not qualified to move forward. 3rd, we need to have qualified teachers. Teachers that still have the passion to teach, have the goal and the drive to make these kids better. I hope you guys enjoyed my video. This is only like about the 340 something time that I've done this over. This is my bibliography page that I used to include the books by Mr. Blanchard, by Dr. Blanchard. Hope you enjoyed it. Thank you very much.